Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantahe. Namo Namah Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Namah Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Yam pravrajantamanopetamapetaकृत्यam dvaipayano virahakatara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravobhineduhu tam sarvabhutahridayam munimanatosmi yasvanubhavamakila shrutisaramekam adhyatmadheepam atititirshatam tamondham samsarinam karunayaha puranaguhyam Tam Vyasasūnumupayami Gurum Muninam Yogindraya Namastasmai Kshukaya Brahmarupine Samsara Sarpadashtam Yo Vishnuratamhamu Muchate Kalhavyala Mukagrasa Trasa Nirnasha Hetave Srimad Bhagavatam Shastram Kalokirena Bhashitam Etasmadaparam Kinchite Manashuddhyena Vidyate जन्मांतरे भवेत् पुण्यं तथा भागवतं लभेत् ज्ञानवैराग्य संपूर्णान् हरिभक्ति परायणान् पूर्वाचार्यातहं वन्दे संप्रदाय प्रवर्तकान् भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्व विग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्र योगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुम् अवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सताम् वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम् श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुख्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वथा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव श्री हरे नमः श्री हरे नमः श्री हरे नमः गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविंदा गोविंदा सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. Okay, so I think 26 we'll have to review from 49. So 72, 48, 24, 13, 37. Okay, so around 18 stanzas each you can do. Okay, let me see what I think. Nikki, crowd is little half than Nikki. Okay, maybe Madhu, can you do one half? Maybe first 18 stands from 42 to 60, 48 to
49.
66. 49 in or 18 stanzas. So 67 over here. And then Jayashree, can you do one half, remaining half?
Sure.
Hare Namaha. So 49, no? From 49.
Parasya Drishyate Dharmo.
Yeah. Parasya Drishyate Dharmo Hya Prasa परस्मिन् समन्वयात् अधो विशेषो भावानां भूमौ एवोपलक्ष्यते एतान्यसंहद्य यदा महादादीनि सप्त वै कालकर्मगुणो भेदो जगदादिरुभाविशत् तदस्तेनानुविद्धेभ्यो युक्तेभ्योऽण्डम् अचेतनम् उद्दितं पुरुषो यस्मात् उदतिष्ठत् असौ विराट् एतदण्डं विशेषाख्यं क्रमवृद्धैर्दशोद्धरैः दोयादिभिः परिवृतं प्रधानेनावृतैर्बहिः यत्र लोकविधानोऽयं रूपं भगवतो हरेः हिरण्मया तण्डकोशात् उद्धाय सलिलेशयात् दमविश्य महादेवो बहुधा निर्बिभेदतं निरभिद्यतास्य प्रथमं मुखं वाणी तदोऽभवत् वाण्या वह्निरधो नासे प्राणोतो घ्राणयेतयोः घ्राणात् वायुरभिद्येताम् अक्षिणी चक्षुरेतयोः तस्मात् सूर्यो व्यभिद्येताम् कर्णौ श्रोत्रं दशो दिशः निर्बिभेत विराजस्त्वक् रोमश्मश्वादयस्ततः तदवोषधयशासन् शिष्णं निर्बिभिदे ततः रेतस्तस्माताभासन् निरभिद्यद वैगुदं गुदातबाणो बाणश्च मृत्युर्लोकभयङ्करः अस्तौ च पानाच पानाच मृत्युर्लोकभयङ्करः अस्तौ च निरभिद्येतां फलं दाभ्यां तदस्वराट् पादौ च निरभिद्येतां कदिस्ताभ्यां तदो हरिः नाट्योऽस्य निरभिद्यन्त ताभ्यो लोकितमाभृतं नत्यस्ततः समभवन् उदरं निरभिद्यत शुद्धिभासे तदस्यातां समुद्रस्त्वेदयोरभूत् अदास्य हृदयं भिन्नं हृदयान्मन उद्दितं मनसः चन्द्रमा जातो बुद्धिर्बुद्धेर्ग्रामपतिः अहङ्कारस्ततो रुद्रः चित्तं चैत्यस्ततो भवत्
first line after the comma. बुद्धिर्गिराम्पतिः.
बुद्धिर्गिराम्पतिः. Okay. हे देहेभ्युद्दितो देवाः नैवास्यो दाबने शकन् पुनराविविशुगानि तम् उद्दापयितुं ग्रमात्.
First line युद्धिता. You said two, maybe by mistake.
हे देहेभ्युद्दिता.
Uddita, correct. Yeah, I think two chonnil by mistake. Uddita deva.
Okay. वन्निर्वाचा मुखं पेजे नोदोदिष्टत्तदा विराट् ग्राणेन नासिके वायुः नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् अक्षिणी चक्षुः आदित्यो नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् श्रोत्रेण कर्णौ च दिशो नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् त्वचं रोमभिर्ओषध्यो नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् रेतसा शिष्णमाभस्तु नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् रुक्कुदं मृत्युरपानेन नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् हस्ताविन्द्रो बलन् ऐव नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट्.
Underline second line before the comma. Balenaiva.
Oh, yeah. अस्ताविन्द्रो बलेनैव नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट्.
You can stop. You can stop.
Oh.
विष्णुर्गत्यैव चरणौ नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् नाडीर्नद्यो लोहितेन नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् शुद्रुभ्याम् उदरं सिन्धुः नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् हृदयं मनसा चन्द्रो नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् बुद्ध्या ब्रह्माभिहृदयं नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् रुद्रोऽभिमत्या हृदयं नोददिष्टत्तदा विराट् चित्तेन हृदयं चैत्यः क्षेत्रज्ञः प्राविशत्यदा विराट्दैव ददैव पुरुषः सलीलात् उददिष्टद यदा प्रसुप्तं पुरुषं प्राणेन्द्रियम् अनोदियः यः
சாரி, அது பிராணேந்திரிய மனோதியः.
प्राणेन्द्रियं
No, im அல்ல, it's a mano. So பிராணேந்திரிய மனோதியः.
ஓ அங்க அந்த வேண்டாம். ஓகே,
ஆமா, வேண்டாம். It's a mano.
यदा प्रसुप्तं पुरुषं प्राणेन्द्रियमनोदियः प्रभवन्ति विना येन नोतापयितुमोजसा तस्मिन् प्रत्यगात्मानं धिया योगप्रवृत्तया भक्त्या विरक्त्या ज्ञानेन विविच्यात्मनि चिन्तयेत्. श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीय स्कन्धे कापिले तत्त्व समाम्नाये षड्विंशोऽध्यायः. अतः सप्तविंशोऽध्यायः. श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि पुरुषो नाज्यते प्राकृते गुणैः अविकारात् अकर्तृत्वात् निर्गुणत्वाज्जलार्गवत् स एष यर्हि प्रकृतेः
குணேஷ்வபிஷஜ்யதே.
என்ன இன்னொரு தடவை சொல்லுங்க.
குணேஷ்வபி விஷஜ்யதே.
ஓ, குணேஷ்வபி விஷஜ்யதே. விஷஜ்யதே. அஹம் கிரியா விமூடாத்மா கர்த்தாஸ்மீத்யபிமன்யதே தேன சம்சார பதவீம் அவசோப்யேத்ய நிவ்ருதः प्रासंगिकै कर्मदोषैः सदसन्मिश्रयोनिषु अध्यह्य विद्यमानेऽपि संसृतिर्न निवर्तते ध्यायतो विषयानस्य स्वप्नेन नर्गादमो यदा अदयेव नैश्चित्तं प्रसक्तम् असदाम्पदी भक्तियोगेन तीव्रेण विरक्त्या च नयेत्वशं यमादिभिर्योगपदैः अभ्यसन् श्रद्धयान्वितः मयि भावेन सत्येन मत्कथाश्रवणेन च सर्वभूतसमत्वेन निर्वैरेण प्रसङ्गतः ब्रह्मचर्येण मौनेन स्वधर्मेण बलीयशा यत्रुच्य यो बलप्तेन सन्तुष्टो मिदपुङ्मुनिः विविक्तशरणः शान्तो मैत्रः करुण आत्मवान् सानुबन्धे च देहेऽस्मिन् अकुर्वन् न सदाग्रहं ज्ञानेन दृष्टतत्त्वेन प्रकृतिः पुरुषस्य च निवृत्तबुद्ध्यवस्थानो दूरीभूतान्यदर्शनः उपलभ्यात्मानं चक्षुषेवार्गमात्म
चक्षुषे वार्कम् आत्मदृक्
चक्षुदेवार्गम् आत्मदृक् मुक्तलिङ्गं सदा पासम् असदि प्रतिपद्यते सदो बन्धुम् असक्षक्षुः सर्वानुस्यूदम् अत्वयम् यदा जलस्त आभासः स्थलस्तेनाव दृश्यते स्वापासेन तदा सूर्यो जलस्तेन द्विस्थितः दिविस्थितः एवं तीव्रदहङ्कारो भूतेन्द्रियमानोमयैः भूतेन्द्रियमनोमयैः स्वाभासैर्लक्षितोनेन सदापासेन सत्यतृक् भूतसूक्ष्मे.
So did we continue? We stopped at 13 or did we go to 16? Oh, 16 pantom. Okay. Keep going. I thought we stopped at 30. Okay.
भूतसूक्ष्मेन्द्रिय मनोबुद्ध्यादि विहनित्रया लीनेष्वसदि यस्तत्र विनित्रो निरहङ्क्रियः मन्यमानस्तदात्मानम् अनष्टो नष्टवन्मृषा नष्टे हङ्करणे दृष्टा नष्टवित्तैवादुरः एवं मृष्यासावात्
and the sau evam pratyavamrishyasau. The verb will go away sau and then atmanam pratipadhyate.
एवं प्रत्यमृष्यासौ आत्मानं प्रतिपद्यते साहंगारस्य द्रव्यस्य यो व्यस्तानम् अनुग्रहः.
Right, 218. Okay, all right. So we'll finish the meaning of 27. Right. So a couple more chapters. It's going to be very theoretical. That's so what you call Kapilopadesham is, right? Like in Narayanyam, Bhattaripat condenses this whole thing into one stanza. But here you have to get into all the details. So this is 27 and 28 and 29. Actually, 3 more chapters. But 28 and 29 talks more about devotional service. But 27 is kind of a little bit wrapping up that entanglement, right, of the Purusha or the soul with the Prakriti. So this entanglement thing is continuing here. So just to recap, because I think I said the meaning until 16, till Deva Bhutiru Vacha. So I'll kind of recap that. So in this, Kapila is just saying again that the soul, like we said, it has got 2 states. Although the soul is stateless, but when the moment it thinks, it is attached to everything that is there, it is bounded. That is its conditioned state. We are all in conditioned state. When it comes to the realization, it becomes a liberated state. So it just, the same soul just changes. One is it is bound by things, one is just not bound by things, right? And then the key point he's kind of articulating here is that we have to understand this difference. He's talking theoretical, philosophical knowledge. Then he'll come into the bhakti towards the end of this and towards the next chapter. But he is saying for us, if you're going the jnana marga, is to understand that difference, right? Otherwise, he says you'll be stuck into this cycle because you won't know what is actually happening. And then he talked briefly about depending on the karma you are doing and depending on the vasanas you are having, you will either go up in your next janmam or you will remain the same or you'll go down. That we all know. It is pretty obvious because whatever you desire and whatever things you're carrying with you, that is going to drive where you're going to go next. So it has that freedom that you have. And then the third point he was kind of calling out was that the soul itself, is just changes state, right? Like when you die, all it does is it has its own, the Sukshma Shariram, which we spoke about several times. It still has that core, that Ahankaram, the Mahat, which is the consciousness aspect of it, the Ahankaram, which is its concept of individuality, and all the senses to be able to sense things in a Sukshma form. So it can still experience all of this. It can still hear, it can still see, it can still feel, but not through a gross body. It has those things in a sukshma form. All it does is it takes this thing, and once you die, all of that gets packaged together as a sukshma shariram. It just jumps into a different body at some point, right? Where whenever the point comes, otherwise it continues to remain the sukshma shariram. So he kind of is re-emphasizing all of this in this, and then he says in uh, if I forget which one he says that, but in anyway, he says that like the only way for you to kind of to come out of this is by always contemplating on me. Yeah, mai bhavena satyena matkatha shravanena cha. By constantly contemplating and hearing all of this is one way you can free. So that's kind of where this thing he explains this. So now once Kapila explains this, then Devahuti has some very actually one more thing he talks about is he says that um, even when you look at a person who's realized soul, right? Like we can pick any realized soul who's there. On the surface, it will still appear that they are engaged with the material body. They still eat, okay, they are eating, they still listen to stuff, they still are getting doing things. But he says, but don't get misled by that, right? Because when you're in this body, you have to take care of the body, because if you don't take care of the body will just get problems, right? That is all free will, right? If you go eat junk, then bad things are going to happen to the body. So just because a devotee is particular about what they are eating doesn't mean that they are getting attached to the senses. He says you have to look beneath the surface. Beneath the surface, they could still be spiritually awake. They might still know that I am different from this body, but right now this is my body. I have to take care of this body for my soul to survive in this. Otherwise, if the body is gone, the soul has to jump ship, right? So you have to protect this body in this janmam. So for that, you have to do the appropriate things, but the important thing is not to get attached to it. So that is the difference he is actually calling out, right? That you might, some of these people on the surface might look like they're attached, but in reality they may not be attached. They are just doing what is bare minimum that is actually required. So when he kind of talks about all of this, Devahuti has some basic questions. She says, you are telling that this Prakriti and Purusha are so tightly bound to each other, right? Like we cannot separate out for ourselves, right? What is Purusha, what is Prakriti for our own things. She says, when it is so tightly bound, they are stuck like two magnets, right? And she says, it is like when you have the earth, the ground, how can I separate the smell of the ground from the ground itself? Or if I'm drinking some tasty water, how can I separate out the taste from the water? I cannot, because those two are just so entangled. So you see, similarly, the soul that we have and the Prakriti, all the material things, we cannot separate out our senses from the core soul. So she says, how do you even separate it out? Is it so hard to separate out? Is it like a technique, right? She's asking, is there a technique I can actually use to separate these things out because it is so bound, right? And he says, even though you might say that the soul is not affected by anything, it is just a witness or a passive person, but it is so inbound. How can the soul ever free itself, right? How do you even free that? What is the mechanism for able to do that, right? And that is a question she's asking beautifully, because which is all we say, okay, I get it. Let's say I understand that the soul is different and all that. How do I feel it? How do I actually get it to separate, right? And then she says, not only a one-time realization, and Revati and I were talking about this when we were driving to Aurora yesterday. It's not just a one-time, okay, I'm beginning to feel that I'm separate, but how do you permanently feel that, right? Tomorrow it might come again. You might get attached to something, so the cycle is going to repeat. So how do you permanently do that? That's the question that Devahuti is asking. To which Kapila says very beautifully, saying that he first starts off by saying that you know the main thing is, he says, is you cannot physically or by any means separate these two out. So don't think that there is some process by which you can separate it out. He says because they are not actually connected, like how the aroma is already in earth, it is just entangled. He says that is not how soul is connected to this material nature. It is saying it is all conditioning. You can condition your soul to not get connected to nature. So it doesn't have to be connected, right? If the earth is there today, if you go smell the mud inherently has a smell. The earth doesn't have a choice to say whether I want to smell good or bad. Whatever smell is there, that smell is there. But he says that is not how the soul and Prakriti are. He says it's your soul's choice, your choice of whether you want to get connected or not. right? So he says you have to condition your mind to not get connected. So don't think it is attached like water and the taste or anything like that. It is all up to you whether you want to get conditioned or not. And he says that you have to, the way again he talks about, that's why the Sankhya, when you go talk to somebody outside and you say Sankhya, they say, oh, but Sankhya is all about numbers and prakriti and the Purusha and all connection. Where is God coming in this, right? But the Sankhya that Kapila is talking, the bhakti is the center of all of that. Because Kapila says the only way to disentangle yourself is through bhakti. The only by getting that bhakti can you actually entangle yourself by not get bound to this, right? So he kind of talks about that very nicely. And then he says that bhakti cannot be like most of us saying, I can avoid understanding all of this, which is also fine because you can completely go deep in bhakti. But he says understanding this helps. And he says it's not just going and praying for 2 hours, 3 hours a day. It says you have to start seeing everything in a spiritual way. You should not get attached to sensual pleasures which are there. You should have the austerities. Next to the chapter is all about the Ashtanga Yoga again. So it's all about the discipline of practicing all those austerities, right? And you have to make sure that all of this is there so the devotion continues for a long time, and it is not an emotional phase, right? It's not like, okay, today I'm feeling very devoted, tomorrow I don't feel devoted. He says it cannot be like that. That is not true devotion. By doing that bhakti, you are not going to get entangled. You're still going to get this entanglement. You have to have the deep spiritual thing, and you should start seeing everything around you spiritually, and only then you will be able to. So he kind of goes through the characteristics of that bhakti. And this is a small chapter anyways. He gives 5 steps that Kapila says. Really, the 5 steps to get this attachment out. Very simple. One, he says that true devotion is going to burn away all your karmic things. You will not realize it, but he says by constant devotion you can burn away all the karma that you have created. All the desires that you have will eventually go, but it cannot be a one time you light up that fire and go. It has to be, the fire has to be always running, right? It has to constantly be there, and over period that will eliminate the bondage. That is the first thing that he's telling. The second thing he says is you have to at some point renounce things, which is extremely important. He says till you and that is thing, he says you can control it with your mind. Or this is 100% controllable with our mind, right? Anything, you can pick the smallest of things which you think is yours. And like I spoke about the example in the last class of even a freedom fighter, even a fighter who says I'm fighting for the country, majority of them do it for a self of purpose. They say, why are you doing it? Because I need a sense of purpose, right? So you're still tying it to yourself, right? So anything which ties back to yourself means you're not detached, you are attached, right? So even if you say, I have a sense of purpose for going and serving somebody, okay, that means you are attached because you are at the end of the day trying to serve yourself, right? He says that detachment needs to be there. Of nothing can, you cannot like trace back to you, right? The moment it traces back to you, that means there's attachment there. So that is the second step. He says you have to have the sense of renunciation because that is the one which is going to give the soul the freedom. And he says once you do that, then you will gradually come to the realization of how you are completely separate from all of that. And that is the third step, is coming to the realization, and says once a person comes to the realization, then none of this affects that person. He, like I said, the liberated people, they may still act in the world, they will still go service people, they will still go help people, they will still go participate in various things, but they know how to not get affected by the outcome of it, which is pretty much what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is don't get attached to the outcome, right? So everything we do, we expect something in return, right? Yeah, and even if it is to give pleasure to your mind, that is an attachment. He says it cannot even give pleasure to your mind. And he says the expectation of it should be such that even like, and Bhattaripad also says it in one of that stuff, the moment you do all this, all these things will come to you. All this Ashta Siddhi will come to you. But even Bhattaripad says you should say, I don't want any of those, right? And he says in here, in the last, Kapila says, you will get access to the greater worlds. You will get all the benefits of it. But the true devotion should be, even that I don't want. Because the moment you want something, it becomes a desire, which means you're doing something with a sense of purpose. You're going to get entangled. You don't get it, you're going to get disappointed, you're going to work towards it more, and you're going to work towards that desire. So he says that is true bhakti, the one which follows all of these things with absolutely nothing. And the end, he beautifully summarizes that while you may think all of this you can do, you still cannot do this without the blessings of Bhagavan. Use the Bhagavan, you should pray to him to bless you to go in this journey. So first is you want to go in the journey. That's the step number one. And second, he says, and you pray to Bhagavan to bless you. That's it. But it says in Dhrida Bhakti, please give me that firm devotion towards you. And that is what is going to take you, right? And so that's how he wraps up this. And next chapter, he talks about how to execute the process of devotional service. So this is really saying again why devotional service is a way out. So net summary of this is, even if you don't understand how to separate out Prakriti and Purusha and all of that stuff, he says, don't worry, just continue in the path of true devotion, and that will eventually cleanse out everything. Right? Okay. So we'll start from 17. Let's see who I had today. Anandji, you can be student, and Revati, you reached home, right, Revati? I thought she did. Okay.
I can be student, Rajesh.
Yes, Rajesh.
Yeah, so Devan, I'm going to pick you for the next round. So yeah.
Ranchi,
Okay.
you'll pick me for revision today. I practice very well. That day you won't pick us up.
No, I'm going to pick you as a student today, but not for the first round. Yeah. Okay. 17. Devahutiru Vacha Purusham Prakritir Brahman. So it's got a double na there. So we put a Brahman, comma. Next word will start with a na. Na vimunchati karhichite. Anyonya pashrayatvacha. So you cannot break that word. Anyonya pashrayatvacha, comma. Nityadvadanayof prabho. Even that word cannot break it. Devahutiruvacha Purusham Prakritir Brahman Na Vimunchati Karhichite Anyonya Pashrayatvacha Nityadvadanayof prabho.
देवहूतिरुवाच पुरुषं प्रकृतिर्ब्रह्मन् न विमुञ्चति कर्हिचित् अन्योन्यापाश्रयत्वाच नित्यात्वादनयो प्रभो.
Revati.
Okay. देवहूतिर्वाच पुरुषं प्रकृतिर्ब्रह्मन् न विमुच्यति कर्हिचित् अन्योन्याभाश्रयत्वाच नित्यत्वात् अनयोः प्रभो.
Yatha Gandhasya Bhumescha, comma, Na Bhavo Vyatirekatah Apam Rasasya Cha Yatha, comma, Tata Buddhev Parasya Cha. Yata Gandhasya Bhumescha Na Bhavo Vyatirekatah Apam Rasasya Cha Yatha Tata Buddhev Parasya Cha.
यदा गन्धस्य भूमिश्च न भावो व्यतिरेकतः अपां रसस्य च यथा तदा बुद्धे परस्य च.
यथा गन्धस्य भूमेश्च न भावो व्यतिरेकतः अपां रसस्य च अपां रसस्य च यथा तदा बुद्धे परस्य च.
Akartuh Karma Bandhoyam, comma, Purushasya Yadashrayah Guneshu Satsu Prakritehe, comma, Kaivalyam Teshvatah Katam. Akartuh Karma Bandhoyam Purushasya Yadashrayah Guneshu Satsu Prakritehe Kaivalyam Teshvatah Katam.
अगर्तु कर्मबन्धोऽयं पुरुषस्य यदाश्रयः गुणेषु सत्सु प्रकृतेः कैवल्यं तेषदः कथम्.
अकर्तुः कर्मबन्धोऽयं पुरुषस्य यताश्रयः गुणेषु सत्सु प्रकृतेः कैवल्यं देष्वतः कथम्.
Kvachit Tatvavamarshena, comma, Nivrittam Bhayam Ulbanam Anivritta Nimittatvat, comma, Nimittatvat, comma, Punah Pratyavatisthate. Kvachit Tatvavamarshena Nivrittam Bhayam Ulbanam Anivritta Nimittatvat पुनः प्रत्यवतिष्ठते
तत्त्वावमस्येन निवृत्तं भयमुल्बणम् अनिवृत्त्यनिमित्तत्वात् पुनः प्रत्यवतिष्ठते.
Rajeshji,
Hmm.
that second line, is it Anivritta or Animitta? My book has Animitta.
अनिवृत्त
Vritta. Okay.
अनिवृत्त निमित्तत्वात्.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Rajesh.
क्वचित् तत्त्वावमर्शेन निवृत्तं भयमुल्पणम् अनिवृत्तनिमित्तत्वात् पुनः प्रत्यवतिष्ठते
श्री भगवानुवाच अनिमित्त निमित्तेन स्वधर्मेणामलात्मना one word तीव्रया मयि भक्त्या च श्रुत संभृतया चिरम्. श्री भगवानुवाच अनिमित्त निमित्तेन स्वधर्मेणामलात्मना तीव्रया मयि भक्त्या च श्रुत संभृतया चिरम्.
श्रीभगवानुवाच अनिमित्तनिमित्तेन स्वधर्मेणामलात्मना तीव्रया मयि भक्त्या च श्रुतः सम्प्रदया चिरम्.
श्रीभगवानुवाच अनिमित्तनिमित्तेन स्वधर्मेणोऽमलात्मना तीव्रया मयि भक्त्या च श्रुतः सम्प्रतया चिरम्.
First line after the comma स्वधर्मेणामलात्मना.
स्वधर्मेणाम्
You cannot break that like that. Swadharmenamalatmana.
स्वधर्मेणामलात्मना.
Correct. Swadharmena amala atmana.
Okay.
Moon word, but you can just say it together. You don't have to break it that way.
Okay.
Jnanena drishta tattvena, vairagyena baliyasa, tapo yuktena yogena, tivrenatma samadhina. So here is why saying drishta tattvena means looking at it in the right way. Vairagyena, detachment. Jnana, knowledge. Tapo yuktena, through tapas and everything. So by doing the proper ways, you'll get that intense devotion of tivraya mai bhaktyacha in the previous stanza. So how do you get that? Is by doing all this. Jnanena drishta tattvena vairagyena bhalihya tapo yuktena yogena तीव्रेणात्म समाधिना.
ज्ञानेन दृष्टतत्त्वेन वैराग्येण बलीयसा धावयुक्तेन योगेन तीव्रेणात्मसमाधिना.
Second line, first word, tapo yuktena.
तपोयुक्तेन योगेन. Thank you, Rajesh.
ज्ञानेन दृष्टतत्त्वेन वैराग्येन बलीयसा तपोयुक्तेन योगेन तीव्रोणात्मसमाधिना. तीव्रेणात्मसमाधिना.
प्रकृतिः पुरुषस्येह दह्यमाना त्वहर्निशम् तिरो भवित्री शनकैः. Visarga on comma, the ra goes away. Next word will start with a. Agner yonirivaranihi. One word, yonirivaranihi. Prakritif purushasyeha dahyamana tvaharnisham tiro bhavitri shanakaihi agner yonirivaranihi.
प्रकृतिस्पुरुषस्येह दह्यमाना त्वहर्निशम् तिरो भवित्री शनकैः अग्नेर्योनिरिवारणीः.
प्रकृतिः पुरुषस्येह दह्यमानाद्वहर्निशम् धीरो पवित्री शनकैः अग्नेर्योनिरिवारणिः.
Anandji, that ivaranihi, I think you stretched it a little bit. It's just a short e at the end. Okay, just ranihi.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Bhukta bhoga parityakta, drishta dosha cha nityashah neshwarasyashubham datte, swe mahimni stitasya cha. Bhukta bhoga parityakta drishta dosha cha nityashah neshwarasyashubham datte swe mahimni stitasya cha.
भुक्तभोगा परित्यक्ता दृष्टदोषा च नित्यशः नेश्वरस्य शुभं दत्ते क्षेमहिम्नि स्थितस्य च
उक्तभोगा परित्यक्ता दृष्टदोषा स नित्यशः नेश्वरस्याशुभं तत् दत्ते स्वे महिम्नि स्थितस्य च
यथा ह्यप्रतिबुद्धस्य प्रस्वापो बह्वनर्थ भृत् स एव प्रतिबुद्धस्य न वै मोहाय कल्पते यथा ह्यप्रतिबुद्धस्य प्रस्वापो बह्वनर्तभृत् स एव प्रतिबुद्धस्य न वै मोहाय कल्पते
यदा ह्यप्रतिबुद्धस्य प्रस्तावो बहुनर्धभृत् स एव प्रतिबुद्धस्य न वै मोहाय कल्पते
यथा ह्यप्रतिबुद्धस्य परस्वापो बह्वनर्दभृत् स एव प्रतिबुद्धस्य न वै मोहाय कल्पते.
First line after the comma, praswapo. Praswapo. You said paraswapo, praswapo.
Okay. Yata hrapratibhuddhasya praswapo. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody, like this is like in hundreds of places, they say this, not only in Sanatana Dharma, not only in our scriptures, but also when you listen to other people who talk about journey between souls and all those things, they always say that the simplest comparison they give of how it is like waking up from a dream. That's what they always give that thing, right? So, and because that's the closest you can tell to how it is, right? And the example they give is when you are in your dream, you really think everything is happening and you have the fears, you have the desires, you have all of that. But when you come out of it, you say, okay, it was not all real. I experienced it. The experience cannot be taken away because you did feel like that in your dream. Nobody is questioning that. You did feel happy. You did feel sad in your dream. So that experience is not wrong, but that experience did not affect you, right? That is a takeaway from the dream, right? When you wake up, did you feel affected? No, that was just a dream. Glad I didn't miss my exam. A lot of people have that dream, right? So similarly, he says when the soul leaves the body, it says, okay, whatever happened was real. Things happened to me. I did things, but that was all to my body. But me as a soul, I am still unaffected by it. That is the closest example that you can relate to it. Of course, we'll only realize it when we feel it, when we die. So right now, we have to just take that as, what it is. Evam,
We are thinking we'll realize when we die. God knows.
No,
We
you will all,
realize
everybody
when
realizes that.
happened.
Everybody realizes that,
Oh,
yeah. Everybody will, the
okay.
soul, true soul will realize it. It is just that the immature soul still cannot believe that it has happened. But if you're a generally mature soul, relatively, I'm saying, like most of us should be, the fact that we are learning all this itself means that we are some level of maturity, right? So then you will come to the realization the moment your soul leaves the body, you'll know, okay. And then you'll keep going, you won't get attached to the body. Unless you are that so attached to stuff and you have desires which are unfulfilled, then there's a different, anyway, that's a different topic. But evam vidita tattvasya, prakritir mayi manasam yunjato napa kurute. So here you will have kuruta, in some books put kurute, atma ramasya karhichit. And I won't jump forward 2-3 dashakams, but you will also feel it. You'll also realize it when you're being born, when you're in the womb. That's what Kapila is going to say. So you'll realize it when you die, and you will realize it before you are born, and right in those two endpoints. Evam vidita tattvasya prakritir maimanasam yunjato napakurute atma ramasya karhichite.
एवं विदततत्त्वस्य प्रकृतिर्मयि मानसं युञ्जतो ज्ञापकुरुते आत्मा रामस्य कर्हिचित्
एवं विदिततत्त्वस्य प्रकृतिर्मयि मानसं यज्ञतो नापकुरुते आत्मा रामस्य गर्हिचित्.
Second line, yunjato.
Yunjato. Okay. Yunjatena.
Yadaivam, I'm just breaking at the ma for to be easy. Yadaivam adhyatmaratah, kalena bahujanmana sarvatra jata vairagyah. Add a visarga when you're putting a comma. Vairagyah आब्रह्म भुवनान् मुनिः यदैवम् अध्यात्मरतः कालेन बहुजन्मना सर्वत्र जात वैराग्यः आब्रह्म भुवनान् मुनिः
यदैवमध्यात्मरतः कालेन बहुजन्मना सर्वत्र जातवैराग्यः आब्रह्मभुवनान्मुनिः
यदैवम् अत्यात्मरतः कालेन बहुजन्मना सर्वत्र वैराग्यः आब्रह्मभुवनान् मुनिः
मद्भक्तः प्रतिबुद्धार्तो मत्प्रसादेन भूयसा निःश्रेयसं स्वसंस्थानं कैवल्याख्यं मदाश्रयम् मद्भक्तः प्रतिबुद्धार्तो मत्प्रसादेन भूयसा निःश्रेयसं स्वसंस्थानं कैवल्याख्यं मदाश्रयम्
मद्भक्तप्रतिबुद्धार्थो मत्प्रसादेन भूयसा निःश्रेयसं स्वसंस्थानं कैवल्याख्यं मदाश्रयम्
मत्भक्तप्रतिभुक्तार्तो मत्प्रसादेन भूयसा निःश्रेयसं संस्थानं कैवल्याख्यं मदाश्रयम्
प्राप्नोति हाञ्जसा one word प्राप्नोति हाञ्जसा धीरः स्वदृशाच्छिन्न संशयः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तेत योगी लिंगात् विनिर्गमे प्राप्नोति हाञ्जसा धीरः स्वदृशाच्छिन्न संशयः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तेत योगी लिंगात् विनिर्गमे
प्राप्नोति हाञ्जसा धीरः स्वदृशाच्छिन्न संशयः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तेद योगी लिंगात् विनिर्गमे
प्राप्नोति हाञ्जसा धीरः स्वदृशा छिन्न संशयः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तेत योगी लिङ्गात् विनिर्गमे
यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विषज्यतेङ्घ अनन्य हेतुष्वत मे गति स्याद् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यथा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विषज्यतेङ्ग अनन्य हेतुष्वत मे गति स्याद् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः
यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विषज्ञतेङ्ग अनन्यहेतुक्षतमे गति स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः
यथा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विषज्यतेङ्ग अनन्यहेतुष्पदमेत गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे कापिलेयोपाख्याने सप्तविंशोऽध्यायः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे कापिलेयोपाख्याने सप्तविंशोऽध्यायः
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे कापिलेयोपाख्येन सप्तविंशोऽध्यायः श्रीहरे नमः
कापिलेयोपाख्याने
कापिलेयोपाख्याने
पाख्याने.
सप्तविंशोऽध्यायः हरि ओम्.
Right. So we'll switch here, but I want to in this because this is a beautiful dashakam where it talks about the form of Bhagavan and how to meditate. So that is coming from stanza 13. So when we are doing the stanza, I want to tell you what each of that is so you can visualize. So I'm going to quickly tell the meaning till the first 11 stanzas and then we'll go. So this one is how to execute the process of devotional service. So this is very similar to the what we saw in Ashtanga Yoga, right? It's pretty much that, but Kapila doesn't call it as Ashtanga Yoga, but pretty much every single step of Ashtanga Yoga is what is described here, right? So here, it first starts with, he says, first thing he says is mind your own business, in literally to some extent. He says in the second stanza, he says swadharma charanam shaktya. Whatever you can, according to your ability, do your duties and do what you are supposed to do, right? That is what he always starts with, right? Don't try to compare and try to outnumber somebody and try to do any of that stuff. Whatever is according to your capacity, because in every place it says yatha shakti, how much ever you are able to do, that is how it needs to be done. Not because somebody can do more, I also want to do more on anything. He's talking about bhakti here, but anyway. So he's pretty much talks about the same thing we saw in Ashtanga Yoga, which is first it starts with yama, which is how you behave to others, right? That is everything you do in relation to others, which first starts with ahimsa, like being non-violent, not to hurt, and then when you're telling something to somebody, tell the truth, don't lie to them, because that impacts the other person. Then stealing something, because that also impacts other person, because you're stealing somebody else's stuff. And then it talks about not accepting any gifts, because it says anytime you have a gift, he says it builds a karma between the two of you. So it says do not accept any gifts, or please don't give any
Rakesh,
gifts,
you
all of
strictly
you.
follow that, looks like, at home.
Another?
You strictly follow that advice at home, not giving gifts.
I strictly follow that, and applies to everybody, even to me. Do not give any gifts, because it builds karma, because it's also becomes a dependency, right? Because then you get obligated to do something in return. Your mind thinks, oh, I have to give you something in return. But if I'm not able to do it now, that is a vasana, that's a karma that carries, right? So anyway, so he says all of this thing is how you have to behave with others. Then the second thing is niyama, is how you should behave by yourself, right? So it talks about austerities, and you should be shaucham shuddham, you should be clean, and then all the other practices which is there. And of course here it talks excessively about and the pranayama, which is extremely important. Asana and pranayama both are important. The asana, most of the yogas is about stretching and everything. That is so that you can sit for long hours, right? That is the primary purpose. You sit in the right position. All of that you should be able to do, which is all around the asana. And then the pranayama, it talks very clearly about how you inhale, then you hold for 2x the duration, you hold your breath, and then exhale for 2x. He says you can also do the reverse. You first exhale, hold, and then inhale. He says you can also do the reverse of it. So both of those are okay. That's what Kapila is saying in this, right? So the pranayama, he says you have to do the pranayama several times, because he says what this pranayama does is the physiological things, like purifying the body from inside, that it will do. Because the breath is, at the end of the day, the pranavayu is what keeps our entire body running. And by constantly doing this breathing exercise, he says what it does is all the imbalance which are there in the physiological shape of the body, it will help all of that stuff. It will cleanse your body. It gets into the regular breathing things, and it will also calm the mind, because all of that is required before you can get into meditation, right? So he says, because if your body has impurities, problems, and your mind is also not ready, you cannot go meditate when it will get distracted. He says pranayama is one of the things which will get you into that mode of to be able to do that. And then he says by restraining the senses, which is the most difficult part, like we've discussed long time back when we did Ashtanga Yoga discussion between Parikshit and Shukha Brahman. Also, we spoke about you can control all your senses, but you cannot control your mind, even when you sit for prayers. So that is the hardest part. But as much as you can, he says, do that. Then you get to the state of meditation, which is what stanza 12 starts. So when we come there, I'll tell you how to do it. And also till then we'll get through quickly to 54. Okay. Let me see who I had. Srividya Ramesh, you can be a student, and Atte Gomati, you can be a student if you're on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to start?
You can start, or Srividya Ramesh will start. Either is you can start, Atte. You can start. Okay. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Yogasya Lakshanam Vakshye, Sabijasya Nripatmaje Mano Yenaiva Vidhina, Prasannam Yati Satpatham. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Yogasya Lakshanam Vakshye Sabijasya Nripatmaje Mano Yenaiva Vidhina, Prasannam Yati Satpatham.
Yogasya Lakshanam Vakshye Sabijasya Nripatmaje Mano Yenaiva Vidhina Prasannam yati satpatham.
You have Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, right? First.
Oh, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
श्रीभगवानुवाच योगस्य लक्ष्मणं वक्ष्ये सबीजस्य नृपात्मचे मनो येनैव विधिना प्रसन्नं याति सत्पथम्.
Lakshanam. You said Lakshmanam by mistake.
Sorry, Lakshanam. Yeah, sorry.
Swadharma charanam shaktya, vidharmacha nivartanam, daival labdhena santosha, atma vich charanarchanam. Swadharma charanam shaktya, vidharmacha nivartanam, daival labdhena santosha, atma vich charanarchanam.
Swadharmacharanam shaktya vidharmacha nivartanam daivalabdhena santosha atmaviccharanarchanam.
स्वधर्माचरणं शक्त्या विधर्माच्च निवर्तनं दैवालब्धेन सन्तोष आत्मविच्चरणार्चनम्.
ग्राम्य धर्म निवृत्तिश्च, मोक्ष धर्म रतिस्तथा मित मेध्यादनम शश्वत. We're just breaking the dvi there. Shashwat, vivikta kshema sevanam. ग्राम्य धर्म निवृत्तिश्च मोक्ष धर्म रतिस्तथा मित मेध्यादनम शश्वत विविक्त क्षेम सेवनम.
Gramya dharma nivrittischa moksha dharma ratistatha vitamedhyadanam shashvate vivitta kshema sevanam.
ग्राम्यधर्मनिवृत्तिश्च मोक्षधर्मरतिस्तथा मित्मेत्याधनं शश्वत् विविक्तक्षेमसेवनम्. विविक्तक्षेमसेवनम्.
And the second line, first word mitta, and the third one, I think you said it. Mitta medhyadanam.
Mita, okay.
Yeah. Ahimsa satyamasteyam, yavadartha parigraha brahmacharyam tapash shaucham, swadhyaya purusharchanam. Saying brahmacharyam refers to celibacy, but the celibacy here doesn't necessarily mean not with your partner. Okay, so there's various levels of it, like so. But generally speaking, the celibacy is like don't go to others is what the general reference is, because for you have a karma or to grow the to also have kids and give them that knowledge, right? So there's little clarification there when the word comes.
Rajesh, these are yamas, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, these are yama, the first set of, but Kapila doesn't separate out yama, niyama in that way like the Ashtanga Yoga does. He just mixes everything together. But yeah. Okay, ahimsa satyamasteyam yavadartha parigraha brahmacharyam tapashaucham swadhyaya purusharchanam.
Ahimsa satyamasteyam yavadartha parigraha brahmacharyam tapashaucham swadhyaya purusharchanam.
अहिंसा सत्यमस्तेयं यावदर्थपरिग्रहः ब्रह्मचर्यं तपश्शौचं स्वाध्यायः पुरुषार्चनम्.
Maunam sadhasana jaya. Again, maunam doesn't mean always be silent. It just means don't say unnecessary things is the takeaway there. Maunam sadhasana jaya, stairyam prana jayash shanaihi pratyaharash chendriyanam, vishayan manasa hridi. Maunam sadhasana jaya stairyam prana jayash shanaihi pratyaharash vishayan manasa hridi.
Maunam sadasana jaya stairyam prana jaya shanaihi pratyaharaschendriyanam vishayan manasa hridi.
Rajesh, the first line, it's a maunam sadasana jaya or jayaha?
Jaya, no visarga there, just jaya.
No visarga there.
No visarga.
My book it is visarga.
मौनं
Thank you.
सदा सञ्जय स्थैर्यं प्राणजयः शनैः प्रत्याहारश्चेन्द्रियाणां विषयान् मनसा हृदि
स्वदिष्ण्यानाम् एकदेशे ब्रेकिंग at that mark, मनसा प्राणधारणं वैकुंठ लीलाभिध्यानं, समाधानं तथात्मनः. स्वदिष्ण्यानामेकदेशे मनसा प्राणधारणं वैकुण्ठलीलाभिध्यानं समाधानं तथात्मनः.
हदिष्ण्यानामेकदेशे मनसा प्राणधारणं वैकुण्ठलीलाभिध्यानं समाधानं तथात्मनः
स्वदिष्ण्यानामेकदेशे मनसा प्राणधारणं वैकुण्ठलीलाभिध्यानं समाधानं तथात्मनः
Samadhanam here refers to the state of samadhi. He's kind of just giving very quickly going through it, saying that you go through all of these things, dharana, dhyana, all of that stuff, eventually you will reach the state of samadhi. Etair anyaischa patibhihi, visarga, the ir on the ma goes away. Mano dushtam asatpatham buddhya yunjita shanakaihi. Again, visarga, next line ir goes away. Jita prano hyatandritah. Etair anyaischcha patibhihi mano dushtamasatpatham buddhya yunjita shanakaihi jita prano hyatandritah.
एतैरन्यैश्च पथिभिः मनो दुष्टमसत्पथं बुद्ध्या युञ्जीतशनकैः जितप्राणो ह्यतीन्द्रितः
एतैरन्यैश्च पथिभिः मनो दुष्टं सत्पथं बुद्ध्या युञ्जीत शनकैः जितप्राणो ह्यतन्द्रितः
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य, विजितासन आसनं तस्मिन् स्वस्ति समासीन, ऋजुकायस् समभ्यसेत्. शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य विजितासन आसनं तस्मिन् स्वस्ति समासीन ऋजुकायस् समभ्यसेत्.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य विजितासन आसनं तस्मिन् स्वस्ति समासीन ऋजिकायः समभ्यसेत्.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य विजितासन आसनं तस्मिन् स्वस्ति समासीन ऋजुकायः समभ्यसेत्.
प्राणस्य शोधयेन् मार्गं, पूर कुंभक रेचकैः, which is inhaling, holding, exhaling. प्रतिकूलेन वा चित्तं, यथा स्थिरम् अचञ्चलम्. प्राणस्य शोधयेन् मार्गं पूर कुंभक रेचकैः प्रतिकूलेन वा चित्तं यथा स्थिरम् अचञ्चलम्.
प्राणस्य शोधयेन्मार्गं पूरकुम्भकरेचकैः प्रतिकूलेन वा चित्तं यथा स्थिरमचञ्चलम्.
प्राणस्य शोधयेन्मार्गं पूरकुम्भकरेचकैः प्रतिकूलेन वा चित्तं यथा स्थिरमचञ्चलम्.
You can make it as yatha sthiram achanchalam.
Sorry, yatha stiram achanchalam.
Manochirat syad virajam, jita shwasasya yoginah vaivagnibyam, one word, vaivagnibyam yatha loham, dhmatam, not a full dha, half dha, dhmatam tyajati vaimalam. मनोचिरात् स्याद् विरजं जितश्वासस्य योगिनः वायुवग्निभ्यां यथा लोहं धमातं त्यजति वैमलम्.
मनोचिरात् स्याद्विरजं चितश्वासस्य योगिनः वाग्यग्निभ्यां यथा लोहं धमातं त्यजति वैमलम्.
मनोचिरात् स्याद् विरजं जितश्वासस्य योगिनः वायवग्निभ्यां यथा लोहं मातं त्यजति वैमलम्.
Correct. And the second and first word is Vayu and Agni. So Vaivagni. Okay, and the word order. Pranayamair dahet doshan, put a plus, dharanabhischa kilbishan. So those two lines together. Pratyaharena samsargan, plus again. Dhyane nanishwaran, one word. Dhyane nanishwaran gunan. प्राणायामैर्दहे दोषान् धारणाभिश्च किल्बिषान् प्रत्याहारेण संसर्गान् ध्यानेनानीश्वरान् गुणान्.
प्राणायामैर्दहे दोषान् धारणाभिश्च किल्बिषान् प्रत्याहारेण संसर्गान् ध्यानेनानीश्वरान् गुणान्.
प्राणायामैर्दहे दोषान् धारणाभिश्च किल्बिषान् प्रत्याहारेण संसर्गान् ध्यानेनानीश्वरान् गुणान्.
So from 12, he starts about when you're meditating, what do you think about, right? So like we saw in we read Ashtanga Yoga before also, you can always say meditate on nothingness, but it's very, very hard, not possible for us. So here, both Kapila to Devahuti, later on Krishna to Uddhava in Uddhava Gita in the 11th Skandam, pretty much give the same explanation of how to do things. It's literally like a carbon copy of what they say. So it starts off, he says, by saying that when you're sitting, you have your sense under control, asana, pranayama, all of that is done. So we are now saying meditation, right? He says you do not keep your eyes fully closed, not fully open. He says the eyes should be half open. Okay, and you'll see in some of the pictures when you see Lord Shiva and Narayana in the sitting pose, if you notice carefully in some of the pictures, it'll actually be half open or half closed, So anyway, so he says you keep it half closed and you have to concentrate on the tip of your nose. Okay, so that is a place you have to imagine the form of Bhagavan. So, it says in one of the things they say that you imagine the size of the Bhagavan to be such that he can enter through your nostril. So you kind of imagine him to the tip of your nose and then imagine he's standing there, right? In a size which is small enough that you can inhale him, right? I'm just putting a simple explanation. So that is what 12 says. And in the 13 onwards, each of the stanza describes the form of the Bhagavan. Although I wish I can spend minutes talking about each of those things, it'll take too much time. So, but you can get from the words what some of those are. Yada manas swam virajam, yogena su samahitam, kashtham bhagavato dhyayet, swa nasagrava lokanaha, nasa agra, tip of the nose, nasagrava lokanaha. Yadha manaswam virajam योगेन सुसमाहितं काष्ठां भगवतो ध्यायेत् स्वनासाग्रावलोकनः.
यदा मनस्वं विरजं योगेन सुसमाहितं काष्ठां भगवतो ध्यायेत् स्वनासाग्रावलोकनः.
यदा मनस्वं विरजं योगेन सुसमाहितं काष्ठां भगवतो ध्यायेत् स्वनासाग्रावलोकनः.
प्रसन्न वदनां भोजं पद्म गर्भारुणेक्षणं नीलोत्पल दल श्यामं शंख चक्र गदाधरम. So first he talks about just the general color, saying that his face is like a lotus, smiling face, and just like how the lotus in the middle of the lotus when it opens, it's got those the seeds kind of things. He says, that's how the red your eyes are, and of course shyamam, blue color body, along bearing the shankha chakra gadadharam, all of that with the four hands. Prasanna vadanam bhojam padma garbharunekshanam neelotpala dhala shyamam shankha chakra gadadharam.
Prasanna vadanam bhojam padma garbharunekshanam neelotpala dhala shyamam shankha chakra gadadharam.
प्रसन्नवदनां भोजं पद्मगर्भारुणेक्षणं नीलोत्पलदलश्यामं शङ्खचक्रगदाधरम्.
Lasat Pankaja Kinjalka, put a plus, Pita Kausheya Vasasam, Shrivatsa Vakshasam Bhrajat, put a plus, Kaustubha Mukta Kandharam. We can pick up the words Pitam, referring to the yellow color. So talking about the legs covered with a yellow color cloth. Then Srivatsa Vakshasam, on his chest, on his breast is the Srivatsamar. And then the Kaustubam jewel is suspended from the neck of the Bhagavan. So the thing is, the description that is given here, even when Narada is going to tell Dhruva later, when Krishna is going to tell Uddhava later, when Shukabram told Parikshit early, when Kapila is saying to Devahuti, they all give the same form to meditate on. Right? Nobody is telling meditate on me. Like Kapila could have said meditate on me. Kapila is also an incarnation, right? But he's saying no, you have to meditate on this form. So there's a reason to meditate on that form, right? We don't know why that particular form, but that's what everybody is saying is the form to meditate on. Lasat Pankaja Kinjal Kapita Kausheya Vasasam Shrivatsa Vakshasam Bhrajat Kaustubha Mukta Kandharam.
लसत् पंकज किंजल्क पीत कौशेय वाससं श्रीवत्स वक्षसं भ्राजत कौस्तुभामुक्त कंधरम.
Second line the Brajat stop பண்றோம் அந்த இடத்துல.
Continues together, it's just plus. Yeah.
लसत् पंकज किंजल्क पीत कौशेय वाससं श्रीवत्स वक्षसं भ्राजत कौस्तुभामुक्त कंधरम.
We'll switch last group. So Satya, you can be student, and Uma, you can be student. Matta Dvi Repha Kalaya, Paritam Vanamalaya, Parardhya Hara Valaya, put a plus, Kiritangada Nupuram. So here also you can see some of the things that the flowers, the garland that he is actually wearing. And then you can imagine, he's saying, no, you can say, why does Krishna or Bhagavan have to wear a crown and all these ornaments? He doesn't have to wear it. But he says, for you to meditate on, imagine those things, right? Imagine him wearing the kiritam, nupuram, kankanam, all of that. You imagine as if he's wearing that. Mattadvirepa kalaya paritam vanamalaya parardhya haravalaya kiritangada nupuram.
Mattadvirepakalaya paritam vanamalaya paradhyaharavalayak kiritangadanupuram.
मत्तद्भिरेफकलया परीतं वनमालया परार्ध्यहारवलय किरीटाङ्गदनूपुरम्.
Kanchi guno lasach chronim, Hridayam bhoja vishtaram darshaniya tamam shantam, mano nayana vardhanam. So this and Dushyant in one of the Upanyasam he explained it very beautifully, is that you have to imagine a lotus in your heart eventually, and in that lotus the Bhagavan is standing. And even in then one of the, forget which Dashakam it was, I think Narayanamuli it comes, this description comes. You imagine a lotus flower in your heart blossom. In that form, you remember this Bhagavan standing with the Chaturbhujam with all of these features. So that way you keep reminding yourself that the Bhagavan is there inside of you, right? And that's a constant reminder. That's what he's also saying here. Kanchi guno lasachronim hridayam bhoja vishtaram darshaniya tamam shantam manonayana vardhanam.
Rajeshji, the first line, lasat shronim, shorty or longy?
Shorty, shronim.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Kanchi guno lasat shronam hridayam bhoja vishtaram darshaniya tamam shantam manonayana vardhanam.
The Kanchi is a long E, okay.
First line here.
Kanchi guno.
Oh, Kanchi guno lasat shronam. Yeah.
काञ्चीगुणोल्लसच्छ्रोणिं हृदयां भोजवेष्टरं दर्शनीयतमं शान्तं मनोनयनवर्धनम्.
Apichya darshanam shashvat, sarva loka namaskritam santam vayasi kaishore, kaishore, Bhrityanugraha Kataram. This is the Bhagavan who is worshipped by everyone from all the worlds and is always Kaishore, is Kishora, like a young age. Apincha darshanam shashwat sarvaloka namaskritam santam vayasi kaishore bhrityanugraha kataram.
अपि च दर्शनं शश्वत सर्वलोकनमस्कृतं सन्तं वयसि कैशोरे भृत्यानुग्रहकातरम्
अपि च दर्शनं शश्वत् सर्वलोकनमस्कृतं सन्तं वयसि कैशोरे भृत्यानुग्रहकातरम्
Kirtanya tirtha yashasam, punya shloka yashaskaram dhyaye devam samagrangam, yavanna chavate manaha. This is the glory of the Bhagavan, the Kirtani, always yashas, the greatness of his, always be talking and chanting about it, not only of the Bhagavan, but also the greatest of the devotees, which are the people who we're going to see, Gajendra, Ambarisha, Prahlada, Dhruva, Kuchela. There's no shortage. So even if you cannot think about Bhagavan, think about the greatest of the devotees. Kirtanya tirtha yashasam punya shloka yashaskaram dhyahe devam samagrangam yavanna chavate manaha.
कीर्तन्यतीर्थयशसं पुण्यश्लोकयशस्करं ध्याये देवं समग्राङ्गं यावन्नच्यवते मनः
कीर्तन्यतीर्थयशसं पुण्यश्लोकयशस्करं ध्यायेद्देवं समग्राङ्गं यावन्नच्यवते मनः
Sthitam brajantam asinam, shayanam va guhashayam prekshani yehitam dhyayet. That each will become a it, dhyayet, then if you have the second cha, that becomes a sha there because we are breaking. Shuddha bhavena chetasa. Says whatever you are doing, he says you can imagine however you want. He says you can imagine him as sthitham, as standing, as asinam, as sitting with you, as shayanam, as lying down. So you can imagine that Bhagavan in any way you want, as long as you can imagine with a pure heart, imagine the beautiful form of Bhagavan in any form you want, doing any action, right? Stitham vrajantamasīnam shayanam bhaguhāshayam prekshani yehitam dhyayet shuddha bhavena chetasa.
स्थितं व्रजन्तम् आसीनं शयानं वा गुहाशयं प्रेक्षणीये हितं ध्यायेत् शुद्धभावेन चेतसा
स्थितं व्रजन्तमासीनं शयानं वा गुहाशयं प्रेक्षणीये हितं ध्यायेत् शुद्धभावेन चेतसा
Tasmil labdha padam chittam, sarvavayava samsthitam vilakshyekatra. One word, vilakshyekatra samyujyat. Breaking the da into it and a, samyujyat, ange bhagavato munihi. It says the best way to do that is don't imagine outright the full form of Bhagavan. He says you zoom in into each part. Zoom into the legs, just focus on the legs. Zoom into the hands, just focus on that. First, get into that before you zoom out. So that's kind of how it's going to go. He's going to zoom into each of the part in the next several stanzas, but that's what he says. Is don't just imagine a full thing, zoom into it. Tasmillabdhapadam chittam sarvabhayavasam stitam bilakshyekatra samyujyat ange bhagavato munihi.
तस्मिल्लब्धपदं चित्तं सर्वावयवसंस्थितं विलक्ष्यैकत्र संयुज्यात् अङ्गे भगवतो मुनिः
तस्मिल्लब्धपदं चित्तं सर्वावयवसंस्थितं विलक्ष्यैकत्र संयुज्यात् अङ्गे भगवतो मुनिः
From here, several stanzas, he's going to zoom into each part of Bhagavan's body parts. But he starts with the legs first. So I'll just tell which part he's going to zoom. I'm not going to talk about every word in there, but Sanchintayet Bhagavatash Charanarabindham, Brajankusha Dvaja Saroruha Lanchanadhyam Uttunga Rakta Bilasan Nakha chakra vala plus jyotsnabhir ahata mahad hridayandhakaram. We can break that double dha as iddan hridayandhakaram. Sanchintayet bhagavatascharanarvindham brajankushadhvajasaroruhalanchanadhyam uttunga rakta bilasan nakachakravala jyotsnabhirahata mahad hridayandhakaram.
I think Vajrankusha. It's not Vrajankusha.
Oh, sorry, Vajrankusha. Sorry, my
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, correct. Thanks.
Enga kada Vajrakusha.
Second line, first word. I must have said Vajrankusha.
Sanchintayet bhagavatascharanaravind.
Clear. Sanchintayet bhagavatash.
Oh, it's an eighth. Okay. Sanchintayet bhagavatascharanarvindam. Anga pause.
Lilla. Sanchintayet bhagavatascharanarvindham Vajrankushadhvaja.
Got it. 4 line and one.
4 line.
Sanchintayet bhagavatascharanarvindam. Right?
Yeah.
Vajrankushaಧ್ವಜಸರೋರುಹಲಾಂಛನನಾಟ್ಯಂ ಉತ್ತುಂಗ ರಕ್ತ ವಿಲಸನ್ನಕ
ಉತ್ತುಂಗ ರಕ್ತ ವಿಲಸನ್ ನಖ ಚಕ್ರ ವಾಲ
ಉತ್ತುಂಗ ರಕ್ತ ವಿಲಸನ್ನಕ ಉತ್ತುಂಗ ರಕ್ತ ವಿಲಸನ್ನಕ ಚಕ್ರವಾಲ ಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸ್ನಾಭಿರ್ आहत महद
हृदयांधकारम.
महद hridayandhakaram. Sorry, tune marithu.
You should be able to put the divider, right? Separation panliya.
End separation enga?
Third line la uttunga rakta bilasan naka.
Tune.
Oh, that's okay. Okay.
Sanchintayet bhagavatascharanarvindam वज्राङ्कुशध्वजसरोरुहलाञ्छनाढ्यम् उत्तुङ्गरक्तविलसन्नखचक्रवालज्योत्स्नाभिराहतमहद्धृदयान्धकारम्.
Yach shaucha nisrita sarit pravarodakena, तीर्थेन मूर्ध्न्यधि कृतेन शिवः शिवोऽभूत् ध्यातुर्मनः शमल शैल निसृष्ट वज्रं ध्यायेच चिरं भगवतः चरणार बिंधम. Again, he just emphasizes the importance of meditating on the charana. Emphasizes the importance of breaking on it. Is saying how that is like a vajra, that is like a thunderbolt which will go and beat everybody's sins out, and then that is sins which are there in the mind. It's very similar to the Yogindranam Twatangeshvatika Sumadhuram, 100th shakam, right? That's what he's just emphasizing. That's why he says start with that, focus on the feet first, meditate on the feet for a long time. यशौचनिस्तुतसरित्प्रवरोदकेन तीर्थेन मूर्ध्न्यधिकृतेन शिवः शिवोऽभूत् ध्यातुर्मनः शमलशैलनिसृष्टवज्रं ध्यायेच्चिरं भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम्.
यच्छौचनिसृतसरित्प्रवरोदकेन तीर्थेन मूर्ध्न्यधि कृतेन शिवः शिवोऽभूत् ध्यातुर्मनः शमलशैलनिसृष्टवज्रं ध्यायेच्चिरं भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम्.
यच्छौचनिसृतसरित्प्रवरोदकेन तीर्थेन मूर्ध्न्यधिकृतेन शिवः शिवोऽभूत् ध्यातुर्मनः शमलशैलनिसृष्टवज्रं ध्यायेच्चिरं भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम्.
जानुद्वयं जलज लोचनया जनन्या लक्ष्म्याखिलस्य सुरवन्दितया विधातुः ऊर्वोर्निधाय कर पल्लव रोचिषा यथ संलालितं हृदि विभोर अभवस्य. If you want to break it, that विभोर अभवस्य कुर्यात्. जानुद्वयं जलजलोचनया जनन्या लक्ष्म्याखिलस्य सुरवन्दितया विधातुः ऊर्वोर्निधाय करपल्लवरोचिषा यत् संलालितं हृदि विभोरभवस्य कुर्यात्
जानुद्वयं जलजलोचनया जनन्या लक्ष्म्याखिलस्य सुरवन्दितया विधातुः ऊर्वोर्निधाय करपल्लवरोचिषा यत् संलालितं हृदि विभोर अभवस्य कुर्यात्
जानुद्वयं जलजलोचनया जनन्या लक्ष्म्याखिलस्य सुरवन्दितया विधातुः ऊर्वोर्निधाय करपल्लवरोचिषा यत् संलालितं हृदि विभोरभवस्य कुर्यात्.
just going up. So from the foot, he's gone to the legs. And then he says, imagine Mahalakshmi, caressing with the feet of the Lord on Mahalakshmi, where she's caressing. So imagine Lakshmi Devi there. Next, she's going to go up to the thighs. Uru Suparna Bhujayoradhi Shobhamanav. So that wo that is there, we're going to remove it. Put Shobhamanav, comma. That wo will go away. And start with O next. Ojo Nidhi Atasikha Kusuma Vabhasau Vyalambhi Pita Bara Vasasi Vartamana plus again Kanchi Kalapa Parirambhi Nitambha Bimbam. So very similar to that. So legs, so thighs, so of course it carries the yellow color and all that.
Rajesh, இந்த first line ஒரு வாட்டி சொல்லுங்க, அது கொஞ்சம் டிஃபரெண்டா இருக்கு இந்த புக்ல.
Uru Suparna Bhujayoradhi Shobhamanav. That wo goes away.
மானான்னு இருக்கு. மானா.
அதான் mana vojo you will have, right? Yeah, and the mana and the wo becomes manav.
Okay, manav. Okay.
And then becomes ojo nidhi.
And the wo goes away. Okay.
Wo goes away. The a becomes a au and the wo goes away.
Okay, got it.
ராஜேஷ் மா நாவ் அதை சொல்லும் போது அந்த லைன் எடுத்துடணுமா மா நவ் ஆக்கணுமா?
ஆமா, and because in the wo we are removing, right? It's just a sandhi rule அவ்வளவுதான்.
I'm saying even if you pronounce it with the nav, it comes as ma now, right? Ma now.
Yeah, ma now.
No, what I'm saying nav இருக்குல்ல, அந்த நா பக்கத்துல இருக்க கால் எடுக்கணுமான்ற.
இல்ல அதுக்கு மேல தானே au வரும்.
இல்ல நான் அது பக்கத்துல au போட்டுருங்க.
Okay, that's fine. And the ma na and the extra leg மேல you put the au symbol on top.
Okay, because since we are pausing there, I just put Shobha ma now, then ojo nidhin.
Okay, that's right. However you write it, it's ma now is the word there.
Okay.
Urhu suparna bhujayoradi shobhamanau ojo nidhi atasika kusuma vabhasau vyalambi pita varavasasi vartamana kanchi kalapa parirambi nitamba bimbam.
Uru suparna bhujayoradi shobhamanau ojo nidhi atasika kusuma vabhasau Vyalambi pita varavasasi vartamana kanchi kalapa parirambi nitamba bimbam.
ऊरु सुपर्णभुजयोरधिशोभमानौ ओजो निधि अतसिका कुसुमावभासौ व्यालम्बिपीतवरवाससि वर्तमान काञ्चीकलापपरिरम्भिनितम्बबिम्बम्.
Indeed, it's already 3:30. Okay. Next class, what I'll do is I'll send what each stanza is ahead of time, the body part it is referring to, so we don't have to discuss in the class. Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha. Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Kahena vacha manasendriye va buddhyatmana va prakrute swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.